Welcome back to our channel, your premier source for the most explosive daytime drama updates. Today, we must prepare ourselves for a narrative earthquake, an unprecedented tragedy that will forever alter the landscape of Los Angeles. The unthinkable has happened, shattering lives and plunging the Forrester family into an abyss of unimaginable grief and relentless vengeance. The atmosphere inside Dr. Taylor Hayes' office was initially one of profound tranquility and hard-won romance. For weeks, Taylor and Deacon Sharp had been navigating the delicate beginnings of a genuine connection, a love story that blossomed in the unexpected aftermath of chaos. Believing that the dark, suffocating cloud of Sheila Carter had finally dissipated from their lives, the couple allowed themselves to drop their guards completely. They were no longer looking over their shoulders. They were simply two people finding solace, understanding, and deep passion in each other's arms. The office, usually a clinical sanctuary of professional healing and psychological breakthroughs, had transformed into a private haven for their undeniable chemistry. The soft lighting cast a warm glow over the room as Taylor and Deacon shared an intimately passionate moment on the sofa. Their lips locked in a deep, affectionate embrace that spoke volumes of their hopes for a shared, peaceful future. For Taylor, this beautiful moment represented a triumphant return to joy and stability. After years of emotional turmoil, heartbreaking losses, and the heavy burden of being the Forrester family's emotional anchor, she had finally found a spark of unpredictable happiness with Deacon. She felt incredibly safe, cherished, and entirely present in the warmth of his embrace. The renowned psychiatrist, who had spent her entire illustrious career unraveling the complex traumas of others, was finally allowing herself to experience a simple, uncomplicated love. Every gentle touch, every whispered word from Deacon felt like a solid promise of brighter days ahead. She was completely oblivious to the sinister, lethal shadow creeping just beyond the threshold of her sanctuary, entirely consumed by the intoxicating warmth of the man holding her. Deacon Sharp, too, was drowning in the intoxicating bliss of this new, hopeful chapter. He had fought tirelessly to redeem himself, to prove to the world and to himself that he was more than his past mistakes. And earning the affection of a woman as extraordinary as Taylor was the ultimate validation of his arduous journey. He believed, with every fiber of his being, that his toxic, dangerous history with Sheila Carter was firmly in the rear-view mirror. He was utterly convinced that Sheila had accepted defeat, that she would eventually sign the divorce papers and fade into the background of his life. As he held Taylor close, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest, Deacon's mind was filled with vivid visions of a peaceful, loving future. He had no idea that his optimistic naivety was about to cost him the woman he loved in the most horrific, traumatic way imaginable. But Sheila Carter is a woman who fundamentally does not understand the concept of defeat, especially when it comes to the twisted, obsessive, and highly possessive love she harbors for Deacon Sharp. To Sheila, Deacon was not just a husband, he was a possession, a hard-won prize, and the sole anchor of her dangerously fractured reality. The mere thought of another woman taking her place, of another woman enjoying the life she felt entitled to, was enough to ignite the simmering madness that always lurked just beneath her carefully constructed surface. As she stealthily navigated the quiet, empty corridors of the building, her mind was a chaotic, swirling storm of intense jealousy, perceived betrayal, and cold, lethal intent. Sheila had not returned to Los Angeles to make peace, to clear the air, or to gracefully bow out. She had returned to violently reclaim what she believed was rightfully hers, and she was prepared to eliminate any obstacle in her path with extreme, unforgiving prejudice. The heavy silence of the hallway was broken only by the faint, agonizingly slow creak of Taylor's office door being pushed open. Sheila slipped into the shadows of the room like a phantom, her eyes quickly adjusting to the dim light, only to be met with a visual that instantly shattered the last remaining, fragile fragments of her sanity. There, On the sofa were Deacon and Taylor, lost in a deeply passionate, uninhibited kiss. The sight of their profound intimacy was a visceral, physical blow to Sheila's fragile psyche. The built-up madness, the years of perceived rejection, the burning humiliation of being so easily replaced, it all coalesced into an uncontrollable, explosive rage. Her breathing grew shallow, her eyes darkening with a demonic fury that completely erased any lingering trace of her humanity. In that split second, Dr. Taylor Hayes ceased to be a mere romantic rival. She became a primary target marked for immediate, brutal termination. There was no dramatic monologue, no warning shout to announce her presence, no opportunity for desperate negotiation. The psychotic break within Sheila was absolute and terrifyingly silent. Driven by a blind, overwhelming, murderous impulse, she reached deep into her coat, her trembling fingers wrapping tightly around the cold, unforgiving steel of a loaded handgun. The metallic click of the safety being disengaged was entirely swallowed by the sound of Taylor and Deacon's hushed, romantic laughter. With the chilling, emotionless precision of an apex predator executing its prey, Sheila raised the weapon, aiming directly at the woman who had dared to steal her envisioned life. The world seemed to hold its breath in a suspended, agonizing moment of pure, unadulterated horror as the finger tightened on the trigger. The deafening, explosive roar of the gunshot violently shattered the romantic tranquility of the office, tearing through the air with devastating force. The sound echoed off the walls, a brutal, permanent punctuation mark that instantly ended a brilliant life and destroyed countless others in its wake. The bullet struck Taylor with catastrophic accuracy, the sheer physical impact violently tearing her away from Deacon's loving embrace. The suddenness of the extreme violence was completely incomprehensible. One moment, Taylor was smiling warmly, her eyes filled with radiant love and light. The very next, her expression froze in a tragic mask of sudden shock, intense pain, and rapidly fading consciousness. The vibrant, brilliant psychiatrist was extinguished in the blink of an eye, her beautiful life stolen by the ultimate act of cowardly, psychotic malice. Taylor's body instantly went limp, collapsing heavily and helplessly into Deacon's terrified arms. The transition from a passionate lover's embrace to a desperate, blood-soaked struggle for life was instantaneous and deeply, permanently traumatic. Deacon's mind violently rejected the horrific reality of what was unfolding before his eyes. He caught her falling frame, his hands instinctively and frantically moving to cover the fatal wound, his own skin instantly stained with the warm, crimson reality of her life rapidly slipping away. The pristine, elegant floor of the office, a place historically dedicated to healing and emotional breakthrough, was rapidly transforming into a horrific, gruesome crime scene. Bright red blood pooled beneath them, a stark, terrifying contrast to the peaceful sanctuary it had been just moments before the fatal intrusion. Taylor, no, 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 stay with me. Please, God, no. Deacon's agonizing screams tore through the heavy silence of the room, a raw, guttural sound of a human soul being violently ripped apart. He pressed frantically against the catastrophic wound, hot tears streaming down his panicked face as he watched the brilliant light rapidly fade from Taylor's beautiful, kind eyes. The remarkable woman who had graciously offered him a fresh start, who had looked at him with genuine respect and deep affection, was dying in his arms solely because of the monster he had carelessly allowed to remain in his orbit. The agonizing guilt and absolute, paralyzing horror of the moment fractured Deacon's spirit permanently. He was entirely paralyzed by the trauma, sobbing uncontrollably as Taylor took her final, shuddering breath, leaving him completely alone in a waking nightmare of endless, inescapable torment. Standing in the cold shadows near the doorway, the smoking gun still gripped tightly in her hand, Sheila Carter watched the absolute destruction she had wrought with a chilling, sociopathic detachment. There was absolutely no remorse in her dark eyes, no hesitation, only the cold, twisted satisfaction of having successfully eliminated a massive threat to her delusional happiness. She had proven, once again, that crossing Sheila Carter was a fatal, irreversible mistake. Without uttering a single word of explanation or regret, she turned on her heel and vanished back into the darkness of the corridor, leaving behind a completely shattered man and the lifeless, bleeding body of a beloved family matriarch. Her escape was as swift and silent as her arrival, a phantom of death retreating into the night to plot her next move in the twisted, deadly game she was playing. The tragic, senseless death of Dr. Taylor Hayes is a monumental, catastrophic loss that will send massive shockwaves through the very foundation of Los Angeles society. This was not just the murder of a prominent woman. It was the brutal assassination of a pillar of the community. Taylor was a renowned healer who had saved countless minds, a fiercely protective mother who loved her children beyond measure, and a resilient woman who had survived insurmountable odds, only to be cowardly cut down in her moment of greatest vulnerability and happiness. The cruel, bitter irony of a world-class psychiatrist being murdered in cold blood by a woman whose mind was irreparably broken is a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions. Her sudden, violent departure violently closes a brilliant chapter of compassion, grace, and resilience, leaving an unfillable, aching void in the hearts of everyone who had the privilege of loving her. As the horrific, unbelievable news inevitably reaches the sprawling estates of the Forrester family, the initial wave of paralyzing disbelief will quickly be consumed by an ocean of unimaginable, suffocating grief. This singular, violent event officially opens the darkest, most blood-soaked chapter in the entire history of the Forrester dynasty. The powerful family has faced intense corporate espionage, bitter romantic rivalries, and tragic, unforeseen accidents over the decades. But absolutely nothing could have prepared them for the cold-blooded, execution-style murder of their beloved matriarch. The innocence and security of their luxurious world have been shattered forever. The sprawling mansions and glamorous, high-stakes fashion houses will now be completely overshadowed by a heavy, suffocating shroud of mourning and a desperate, burning demand for ultimate justice. For Steffy Forrester Finnegan, the news of her mother's brutal murder will be an apocalyptic, world-ending event. Taylor was not just Steffy's mother, she was her guiding light, her closest confidant, and her absolute greatest champion in life. The severe psychological impact of losing her mother to the very monster who had relentlessly terrorized their family for decades will push Steffy to the absolute, razor-thin brink of her sanity. The initial moments of hearing the devastating news will be defined by agonizing, heartbreaking screams, a total physical collapse under the crushing weight of a sorrow so profound and deep that it completely defies human description. The pain will be a physical agony tearing at her heart and soul. But Steffy is a Forrester, and beneath her overwhelming grief lies a core of unbreakable, hardened steel that is about to be forged in the fires of tragedy. That agonizing, paralyzing grief will rapidly and terrifyingly transmute into a cold, highly calculated, and utterly ruthless rage. Steffy will absolutely not allow her mother's horrific death to be just another tragic footnote in their family's history. Standing amidst the smoking ruins of her family's peace, her eyes hardened with unshed tears and burning fury, Steffy will make a solemn, unbreakable, blood-soaked vow. She will look directly into the eyes of her father, her husband, and her brother, and declare a total war without any boundaries or limitations. Steffy swears to utilize every single ounce of the Forrester family's immense wealth, global power, and vast influence to hunt Sheila Carter down. There will be no patient reliance on the slow, often flawed gears of the legal justice system. This is a deeply personal, blood vendetta that demands ultimate, uncompromising retribution. Steffy's vow is crystal clear, absolute, and terrifying in its intensity. Sheila Carter will pay for this unforgivable atrocity with her own life. The powerful young CEO will completely transform from a brilliant fashion executive into a relentless, cold-blooded hunter, driven entirely by a singular, all-consuming purpose. She will hire the world's best private investigators, utilize cutting-edge, untraceable surveillance, and call in every single favor owed to the Forrester Empire to track the fugitive killer to the absolute ends of the earth. Los Angeles is about to witness a war of unprecedented, terrifying ferocity. Sheila may have delusionally thought that killing Taylor would secure her twisted victory, but she has instead awakened a furious, unstoppable sleeping dragon. The deadly hunt is officially on, and Steffy Forrester Finnegan will not rest, will not yield, and will not breathe freely until she stands victorious over the defeated, lifeless body of the psychotic woman who destroyed her entire world.